ごめんね。私たち年寄りのために若い人たちが犠牲になって。え？おじいちゃん。上がって上がって。今は幸せ？あんたみたいな子がおると迷惑ないよね。迷惑？何してんの？誰か止めてよ。止めて！この人のおかげで私たちの幸せが成り立ってるの。え？
誰かを救いたい的な。ごめん。
じゃあ俺のことも救ってくれよ。
本当にあなたのことを思ってるの。
地球上の幸せには限りがあるの。
子供は子供らしく子供を演じてればいいのよ。
逃げたって無駄よ。
どこの世界も同じなんだから。
なんで幸せそうな顔してんの。
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the latest episode of Fresh Cuts. This is Mike. Joining me as always, it's Mr. Venom. What's up, Venom?
Greetings and salutations, nursing students. I don't know how many of them are listening to us, but whatever. How the hell you doing, Mike? I'm doing all right.
Doing well. Doing well. I just wanted to bring up, this has nothing to do with the tonight's movie, but I just watched De Palma's Body Double for the first time in a long time because I picked up the 4K. Damn, that's a good movie. And the reason what it kind of stuck in my mind was like Ty West Maxine seemed to be really going for like Body Double, but Body Double is just so much better than Maxine. So it really feels like a lot of similarities. But I guess De Palma's just that much better to me, just my opinion.
If Ty West is going to borrow from a director, it might as well be one like De Palma.
Yeah. I saw like all these similarities, and I've seen Body Double years ago, and I still roughly knew what it was about and how things unfolded. But I was like, damn, like it's kind of like similar, like some of like the storylines. But no, and I'm not even saying that as a knock, but just inspiration took. That's just how it goes. Mm-hmm. So, anyways, also with it is Don and Ellie. What's up, Don?
Yeah, what's going on? Always happy to be here.
All right, so we were faced with a gap week in between theater visits. So, what better time than this past week for a new movie to drop on Shudder? And that would be Best Regards to All. Although when you look it up on IMDb, there's also Best Wishes to All, and it seems like it's the same movie.
Yeah, it's a short film.
Well, there is I know there's
no, it's a short film. It's by the same director. I've seen.
No, I know there is, but there's like a third one that comes up that is like also an hour and 29 minutes, but I'm pretty sure it's the same exact movie. So I don't know why there's like another entry for the same movie. I mean, it's not like
it is the same movie. It's very similar to what we had maybe a couple of months ago when we reviewed Curse of the Seven Seas. Mm-hmm. It was also available as Curse of the Seven Oceans, and it just kind of depended on where you saw it. Shudder has it as Best Wishes to All, so that's what I'm going with.
Yeah. I would go. I think the reason I grabbed the other one on IMDb is just because like the poster I was thinking of came up under Best Regards to All, but it's the same thing. Plus the one Donna is referring to, there is a short one, like I think it's like 11 minutes long. That's also an entry on IMDb. So just in case there's any confusion from people looking it up, that is what we're doing. And I also looked at both to see the synopsis. The one I'm using is a little more basic to avoid like any spoilers. The other one adds a little bit to it. So Best Regards to All. A young woman navigates a discovery within her immediate family only to find much more. That's very vague, which is not a bad thing. All right, so we will start with our general thoughts. Venom, what did you think of this movie?
Well, I mean, from a technical aspect, it looks nice. It's very well shot, very well performed, well edited. It's got a nice score. It's even got some nice cinematography. some of the locales that they use, kind of forested regions of Japan that look really nice. Where the movie gets me is its pacing, man. This is this is the sheer definition of a slow burn. And unfortunately, I can't really report that the ending was enough of a payoff to kind of justify the slow burn nature of this one. Overall, I enjoyed the mystery of the story, like in the first act, like what was going on with these grandparents, who is this mysterious person that they have in their house, blah, blah, blah. But once we actually get to the third act, this movie does something that I railed against another movie doing that we reviewed on this show. And I believe that was called, what was the name of that movie? The Lovely, the Dark, something like that. You guys remember it? It was that forest ranger that was investigating missing hikers.
Oh, damn it. Lonely, Dark, and Deep.
Thank you. That's the one. Thank you so much, Don, for having a better memory than me. Yes, that movie has an ending that's very similar to this one. And I kind of railed against that movie because of how much I didn't like that ending. And unfortunately, I'm going to have to say the same thing about this one. Obviously, I can't really talk about it here in the general thoughts because it is some major spoilage. And hopefully and listeners don't remember that other movie that we mentioned because that ending might give away a little bit of what we're seeing in Best Wishes to All. But overall, this isn't a bad movie. It's just like I said, it's very slow paced. You have to kind of be into this family and what they're going through. And I just kind of found myself not caring as much. I cared about our main protagonist, our nameless young woman who's visiting her grandparents on a break from university. But everybody else, especially just the town, the way that the town was very nonchalant about the incredible evil thing that they're seems like they're all doing. And everybody just kind of brushes it off as if it's just like standard practice. At one point, an old woman in the movie goes to our heroine and actually says, "Oh, you're from the city. You don't know about life out here." And it's like, bitch, that doesn't justify what you people are fucking doing. I don't care. So yeah, like I said, this one has a lot. It has a lot of the similarities of that movie that Don just named, and I thought the same thing about that movie too. Well shot, well performed, well edited. Just that ending left me so sour, and this ending does the exact same thing to me. It leaves me very sour. It almost leaves you questioning why you spent an hour and a half with this story because there's no real arc. Our main character has an arc, yes, but as far as the town and what they're doing, there is none. It's just business as usual. So the movie almost has no bearing on, any future consequences or anything like that. So I don't know, movies like this kind of leave me sour. Like I said, I kind of wonder why I spent the time with it. But like I said, from a technical aspect, it's a beautiful film. It's very well made, well shot, well acted. I have no major problems with the writing, the dialogue, things like that. It's just where this story went left me very sour. I wanted to see a little bit more. I also wanted to see a little bit more conviction from our heroine, but I'll get into that a little bit later. So yeah, overall, this is one that I don't know. If you're a fan of Asian horror, and that's another thing too, is that this movie is barely horror. Like what's happening in this town is very horrible, if you will, very horror-esque. But how it's portrayed in the movie and the actions that we see some of our characters take, it definitely just kind of goes along more as like a psychological thriller type thing. Like I said, there are horror elements, very specific horror elements in this. So I'm not going to say that it's 100% not horror, but I mean, and this movie is a family drama disguised as a horror film. And ultimately that's going to be its high point. I think if you enjoy kind of dark family dramas like this one, then I think this movie is going to be something you enjoy. Me, myself, I'm not always the biggest fan of mixing family drama with horror. I've talked about it many times over the years that sometimes it's done right, as in The Dark and the Wicked, and sometimes it's done wrong, as in Sting. Let's just say Sting for one example. I hated that family drama that was going on in that movie. So yeah, it's a movie that kind of doesn't know what it wants to be, and it also doesn't know what it wants for its moral. Like like I said, you walk away from the movie kind of scratching your head, like, why the hell did I watch that just to get that ending? And like I said, I'm sorry if I'm being vague and ambiguous, folks, but obviously for the general thoughts, I kind of have to be. So, yeah, overall, this is a movie that left me very unsatisfied considering the slow burn nature of it. I thought the payoff at the end was just not worth it. In fact, it left me more frustrated than anything else with this one. So, yeah, I'm going to say well-made movie, but maybe the storytelling suffers a little bit. And I can't imagine it's going to be like that for everybody. I think some people are really going to gravitate towards this story. I kind of had a couple of people hit me up on the socials disagreeing with me on my take on the last movie that we reviewed from the Talk to Me guys from the Philippou brothers. And yeah, I actually got a little bit of feedback as to why I'm wrong about why Bring Me Back wasn't better than Talk to Me or is better, blah, 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 blah. I don't think it's better, but, listen to that episode if you want to know what I'm talking about. But yeah, I love that kind of interaction. So again, if you've seen Best Wishes to All and you think I just missed the point, by all means, hit me up and tell me what I missed, because ultimately I'm left very unsatisfied with this movie. It had potential. It had potential to be a very bloody, very gory movie, but it just kind of left that potential dangling. And like I said, it just kind of left me wanting more. So I'll leave my general thoughts at that for now. Not a high recommend, but at least, like I said, it's a well-made film. So, check it out if you got the time. And it's sub 90 minutes, so at least it's got that going for it. So that's it for me for now.
Okay, Dawn, let's hear about Best Wishes for All.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat. I really enjoy the way it looks. I really like the way it builds this mystery. Um, this remote town out in the middle of nowhere. This strange series of rituals and this strange atmosphere that permeates the whole town. How nobody really cares what's going on. Like just the way everybody treats everything is just like mundane and just run of the mill, like it's just life is normal. It kind of starts out really interesting and really intriguing, and again, the small town Japanese locale kind of adds like this air of mystery about it that kind of drags you in. But yeah, the longer that this goes on, the more it kind of just, I don't want to say it loses its interest, but it just becomes kind of frustrating and unfulfilling. And a lot of it just seems to deal with what Venom said, was that a lot of it just doesn't really feel horror for a great deal of time. A lot of it is just weird, and they treat everything as if it's supposed to be scary, but with no context, it's just weird. Like, for example, one scene involves um I forget who it was, but I think it's the nursing student. There's a scene where she witnesses the grandmother vigorously blowing the grandfather's finger.
Ah, man, I thought grandma had an oral fixation.
Yeah. But the thing is that it's sort of presented as if that scene is supposed to be like scary or like malevolent or something, but it's just weird. Like, she just stands there, and instead of, like sucking him off like any normal person was, she blows his finger. Like, okay. I mean, it's, oddball behavior, but the thing is that there's no context behind it. So it just comes off as just this unnatural behavior. But the way that everybody treats it just kind of, it just feels like there's a disconnect between what's going on screen versus how we're supposed to be reacting to it. And it kind of just causes the film to just drag along. Like Venom said, it feels far longer than it is. Just the way it plays out, the way everything just transpires, the more that everything just unravels. And yeah, by the end, you're just not really feeling it that well. Like, you're kind of wanting more, but then you're also not really interested in learning more. Like, it kind of wears out its welcome to an extent. But Yeah, overall, I can't say I hated it. Like there's still enough to like here. I mean, maybe if I saw like the 11-minute short version that this was originally filmed as. Um, Mike was saying at the very beginning, like there's a two films called Best Wishes for All. One's a short and one's a feature length. And then there's a film called Best Regards to All. And the short version of Best Wishes to All may have been a little bit more tense or suspenseful or something. But yeah, as a feature length version, it just kind of doesn't have the necessary juice to justify itself. So yeah, missed opportunity, a little bit of a disappointment. Can't say it's recommended viewing, but at the same time, again, maybe the off kilter atmosphere could work for you. Maybe you'll find something more intriguing or suspenseful or something in what's going on. But yeah, for me, I'm kind of right there with Venom. It kind of feels more like a disappointment than anything else. So, yeah, I guess back to you, Mike.
Okay. So for me, yeah, it sounds like I liked it quite a bit better than you guys. I guess if I had one main criticism, and this could have even been something I missed in dialogue, just because, we're watching it with subtitles. Um, there's a certain point in the movie where our main character is kind of confronted with the what it is, like what exactly is going on, and from what we gather, it seems like other folks in her position weren't kept in the dark. So I can't remember if there's like a good justification, if like why this
Yes.
family decided not to. I can't
It's
remember.
because, yeah, Mike, it's because she went to college. She went to Tokyo. She went to the big city.
Okay,
Everybody else remained in that town.
that
Because of what was happening, the young people felt that they should stay in the town because of, well, like I said, what's happening, which we can't say right now.
okay. That was my thought, because like the way our main character interacted with like other peers, I was like, okay, maybe it's because of going off to the city. So like that makes sense. And I thought that was the main reason. I just was like, did I miss some more to that? But okay, so that's fine. So yeah, I kind of agree that like the horror elements are kind of light. I actually think that they play with the horror element, like the horror stuff up till like we get the reveal. And then once we get the reveal, then it becomes less horror and more kind of like drama, maybe thriller. But that didn't really, I mean, for me, I was okay with that. It still worked. I liked the theme of what was going on in the subtext and what the movie was trying to say, with the messaging. And I think ultimately it gets to the point where our main character has to make a decision, and they can go two ways with it, and maybe the direction they went with it didn't resonate with everyone. I mean, to me, it was like a 50-50 chance. What's going to happen once we kind of are winding down towards our conclusion? I was okay. I was okay if it would have gone the other way, but I was okay with how it went too.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
No, just to reiterate my point there, I'm okay with where it went. Obviously, I'm not happy with it on a personal level, but I don't think the movie necessarily is a detriment because of where it went. And when I kind of go over my theory of what is happening in full and how it actually affects the people of this town, it will make more sense. So I have less of an issue with that necessarily than I don't know. Just I can't. I have to be so goddamn ambiguous because we're still in the non-spoiler section. But yeah, I think I have an explanation as to why she made the decision that she made. But we'll
yeah,
see if we all
and
agree with it.
yeah, and going by like what you guys said, I feel like yeah, this is definitely like a lower budget. I think they definitely keep it a little more basic in its execution than you might expect if you're used to like Asian horror. Because there were certain scenes where like if it was, a different director or different choices could have made where they really could have gone like over the top of some of the things that characters did, but it was a little more muted than like I would say that I'm used to. I'm sure you guys are used to as well. Just being Asian horror and sometimes how they go crazy with this stuff. Um, but at the end of the day, I wasn't that bothered by it. Like it's obviously going to keep this movie from being like some type of all time like oh my God I'm going to be talking about this for years. But at the end of the 90 minutes, I came away with like oh I liked everything. It was good. I wouldn't say great, but I was just kind of like I found like the way the story played out intriguing, kind of like the puzzle of what was going on. I liked the theme they kind of played with, and I liked the way it our main character was kind of confronted with like, hey, this is like a reality, and now the ball's in your like, what are you gonna do? And I like kind of like that structure with the family and like how things started playing out. Like I obviously keeping it a little more vague now, but I mean overall I found it enjoyable. I liked it. I'm interested to see what the people argued with you about because like to be like where I would fall on that to see how much they liked it versus you, where if I'm fall in the middle or what. I'll take a look at that like later. But
Yeah. I mean, I didn't dislike this movie. Don't let let's not get it twisted. I'm disappointed in the movie. It didn't give me more of what I was hoping for. But like I said, on a technical aspect, it's damn near flawless, great performances, all of that. Just because the story didn't go where necessarily I wanted it to go doesn't necessarily make it a bad movie. It's just maybe not something I'm going to revisit that often. That's all.
would you as of right now would you say it's top 10?
Ooh,
Only because of where we are at the year and like what you would already have in there because
No, for me, I'm gonna say no. It would be maybe top 20 because I'm at 74 movies for the year. So yeah, this would be like maybe top 15, top 20 at best
oh
for me. That's
interesting.
just a personal thing. So yeah.
Yeah, maybe same here. Maybe even leaning 30, just because I've seen a little bit more, but
Yeah, okay. If you've seen 74 movies, that's probably way more than I have so far. But
And
I
Don
will
definitely has me top too. So yeah.
do
yeah.
you Venom, do you have like would you be able to like throw me that like obviously not right now, but like because I'm interested to see what kind of like your top movies are to see how much I've seen and not that would like possibly qualify because like I gotta be honest like out of all the movies I've seen like it's like I don't know this has been a weird year but it's probably because I just haven't seen as much as you guys like I wouldn't call it a bad year but I just feel like it's like there's like movies I really liked
There's
and
stuff that's
then
good,
after
but
that it's
there's
like
not
nothing.
like, maybe there's not like the blow away obvious one.
Okay. Yeah, because like for me, I would say it's probably in my top 10 as of now, but that could just be because I haven't seen as many as you guys that would push it out. It's probably
Mhm.
like in the back half, but 74 movies is way more than I've seen. So if I ever got close to that within like the next month, it could easily push it out. I'm just curious to like what is on your guys' is like maybe top 10 to 15 that I have seen versus that I haven't seen. Because if you got movies that you've seen that you think that are good, I want to know. Because I'm kind
I
of
can pull it up in about 5 seconds if you want me to.
just like you can just
It'll
like
take longer for me to pull it
just throw it in our
up.
chat later. We don't have to have a discussion about it now. I'm just because I'm in search of like better movies because it's like I feel like I'm what I'm trying to seek out like on on VOD. It's just mostly stuff that I just haven't found to be that good. So you might just have seen stuff that I haven't seen, which is
I think we also just have different tastes too. Like, I mean, yes, you and I both like slow burn, kind of elevated horror, but I do still have a soft spot for ridiculous gore. I mean, that's why The Sadness was my number one in 2022. I have that guilty pleasure of just watching people get decimated. So, you know,
Yeah,
This movie,
and
this movie obviously wasn't ultra gory by any stretch. It's a good movie. I'm not saying it's a bad movie by any stretch of the imagination. If this came out like maybe in March or April, I would probably say, yeah, it probably would be top 10. But just because of other stuff that probably people have already forgotten about, stuff like The Wolfman, which is still in my top 10. That's going to push stuff like this, the slow burn stuff with maybe not the most satisfying ending, out of the top 10. So yeah, this is solidly not in my top 10 as of right now.
yeah, and in reality, it could be a matter of like a half star difference of a review pushes it out of your top 10 or 15 where it keeps it in mind,
Sure,
just
sure.
depending. So like it doesn't even necessarily mean there's like a huge gap in what we think of the movie. It's just the other movies that we have differences on. But that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe like later if you have time because I just want to see a list of so I know like what's out there that might be decent that I haven't seen. It could be I see your list and I'm like, oh, I've seen all those and I just disagree, but maybe you've seen stuff that I haven't
That's what
that's
I'm
actually
thinking. I'm
worthwhile.
thinking that you've probably seen 90 to 95% of what I've seen because yeah, obviously most of it is fresh cuts movies. And then, the big theatrical releases, sometimes we'll get two theatrical releases in one week and we won't review one of them, stuff like that. I mean, I don't watch a horror movie every day by any stretch of the imagination. I wish I had that kind of, I just wish I had the access to to that many movies to be able to watch a new one every single day. But at the same time, too, I enjoy so much other stuff that I can't just watch horror all day, every day. I need my occasional cartoons or comedies or something, So,
Well, that's my issue is um there's so much like good stuff from other genres that I'm filling the gaps in for too. Like not
yeah.
necessarily new releases, but just stuff through the years. Or like all like I brought up I was watching Body Double and then from that I was like, oh, let me see what Melanie Griffin was in that era just out of curiosity. And then I see these high rated movies that I've never seen out of curiosity. I'm like, okay, I want to watch that. Has nothing to do with horror, but at the same time it takes up the time that maybe I'd be like watching horror, but sometimes I'm like, I just want to watch something I'm pretty sure is going to be good, and it's not always a horror necessarily, you know.
Have you one recommendation that I would give you that's probably not horror, though I'm probably going to consider it horror because of how violent it is that new Predator animated anthology movie. I don't know if you've seen that yet. It's called Killer of Killers. It's on Hulu. It is fucking spectacular. If you're a
Yeah,
Predator fan, it's a must watch. I've
that's
already watched it.
fantastic.
Oh, you already saw it. Good. Yeah, that is literally in my top 10 overall for the year. That's the Predator movie we've been waiting for years, and it had to be animated. So we're still waiting for the live action one.
Yeah, it's probably my favorite Predator since the first two,
Exactly.
easily.
Yep.
And
Anyway,
and even two's divisive, so like it could be better than two to some people. I just happen to like two a lot, so
yeah, for me, I like the animated more than two. I mean, I don't dislike two at all. Something about the city setting maybe just doesn't do as much for me. And obviously, with the new one being period pieces, all three of them are period pieces. It just speaks to me in a way that maybe it doesn't for the average Predator fan. But yeah, anyway, I digress.
cool. All right. Well, that was general thoughts on best wishes to all or best regards to all and a whole lot more. So you won't be doing a spoiler walkthrough of everything we talked about, just one movie. So that's probably where I'll leave my general thoughts, and I'll just talk again when you hit stuff to talk about during the walkthrough.
All right. Well, like I guess that's my answer for if my co-hosts have anything to add before we get into the walkthrough. Like I said, without talking about spoilers, I mean, you could talk about the technical aspects of this one and kind of general plot points with the story, but the story is very deep, so it's definitely something that needs to be discussed more thoroughly. So screw it. Let's get into it, folks. Let's get into our walkthrough of Best Wishes to All. Technically 2024 in Japan, but it did just drop this week on Shudder, so it is a 2025 for the States. Our movie opens up with a family scene. We see a family just kind of having dinner. They're talking about how happiness is basically the main theme of the conversation being had at the table. Everybody's talking about, having food with your family is what makes you the most happy, being with your family, and they ask the little girl seated at the table, they ask her, "Are you happy?" And, she kind of doesn't answer right away. I think she's just kind of confused by the question. I mean, she's a very young girl. And then the mom kind of almost answers for her, "You're happy, right?" And then the girl says, "Yes, I'm happy." After that, we get a little bit of a time jump. And at that point, we meet our protagonist of the film, who, unfortunately, my friends, everyone in this movie is nameless. There are no names in this movie. Everyone is either called grandma, grandpa. No one is, it doesn't seem like anyone is addressed by name in this movie. So our main character is a nursing student. She is, like I said, she left her hometown to go to Tokyo, to big city, to go to a nursing school, a nursing university. She is in the middle of her program and she's on a break. So she comes home, and when she gets home, she beats the rest of her family. It's like a little mini reunion. Her parents are going to show up, her brother, things like that. When she gets there, she's the first one there, and her grandparents instantly, you notice that they're very odd the way that they act. They smile a lot. That's like I said, smiling and happiness are like the main themes of not just this movie, but this town in general. So, the grandparents are just smiling. Eventually, odd situations start to happen where the grandparents will be like, there's one scene where the grandfather is sitting at the table, and out of nowhere, he just stares up at the ceiling blankly, but with this big shit-eating grin on his face, just absolutely ear-to-ear smile. But he's just kind of staring off into space. His granddaughter, our heroine, basically shakes him, gets his attention, but then he acts like nothing happens. He's like, "Oh yeah." And like he just continues with the conversation that was going on before he blacked out. So, we see a lot of stuff like that. We see grandma will be standing in the middle of the hall, just kind of staring towards a room at the end of the hallway, and she's just literally standing there barefoot in like her sleepwear, just staring at this door. But grandma seems to be a little bit more menacing, almost is the word, because whenever our heroine gets grandma's attention and gets her out of her little blackout, grandma's not smiling. She's almost like she almost has a frown on her face, though there are plenty of scenes with grandma smiling, specifically the scene that Don talked about where grandma just gives grandpa's finger a blowjob for no real reason, though there is a reason that we just can't talk about quite yet, but we will get to it. Okay. One night, on one of the first nights there, our nursing student hears something up in the attic. She asks or not in the attic, but in a room at the end of the hall in their house upstairs. She asks grandma, what's going on with that room at the end of the hall? At first, grandma says, "Oh, someone's living in there." No smile, no nothing. And then the granddaughter says, "Wait, what?" And then grandma changes her story instantly. She's like, "Oh, I'm just kidding. I'm just messing with you. No big deal." It's almost like grandma had like a senile moment, like a senior moment, and then realized, "Oh shit, I wasn't supposed to say that." And what ends up happening is on a subsequent day after this, while our, while our hero is having dinner with her grandparents, we see a man crawling on the floor past the dining room area, like the dining room entrance. Our heroine, the nursing student, sees this and she reacts instantly. She kind of not freaks out, but she has like that silent shock look on her face. And then her grandparents look behind, see that this guy, and at this point, this is where we see that the guy's eyes, mouth, and ears are sewn shut. Yes, totally sewn shut. But like I said, when grandma and grandpa turn around and notice that the guy's crawling on the floor, they literally nonchalantly just get up and go, "Oh, he got out of his room." Like, no explanation to the granddaughter. The granddaughter's freaking out silently, mind you. She's not like, yelling or anything. She's silently freaking out. Who is this man with his eyes, mouth, and ears sewn shut, who's being kept a prisoner in my grandparents' house? So she instantly doesn't know what to do. She ends up getting the help of an old school friend, a guy that I don't know. It seems like she might have feelings for him. Like maybe they both have feelings for each other, but nothing ever comes of that. But anyway, she ends up recruiting his help. They end up sneaking into the grandparents' house and breaking this guy out. They literally, the granddaughter takes scissors and undoes the sewing on the eyes, mouth, and ears. She basically opens everything up. And, you know, the guy opens his eyes and he starts to freak out. And then he basically looks at the granddaughter and says, "Kill me." Literally, just kill me. She's like, "No, no, no, we're going to save you. We're going to get you out of here." And that's exactly what ends up happening. They end up getting the guy out of the bedroom and walking him down the stairs. Right before they're about to walk out the front door of the house, the grandparents show up, but they're just kind of standing there nonchalantly, like, "What are you doing?" And you know, the daughter's not really addressing them. She's trying to get this guy out of the house. Oh, you know, who's still in his underwear, by the way. He's wearing nothing but tighty whities, an older gentleman, older Japanese gentleman, obviously, with, you know, with broken string on his eyes, mouth, and ears that, you know, that have been cut off already. As soon as he gets out into the sun outside of the house, he smiles and he's like, you know, almost like he's a prisoner who just got out of prison for the first time in years, which might actually be the case. And he's giddy. He's just, you know, soaking up the sun. So suddenly he starts walking down the street, almost like he's going somewhere specific. He starts walking down the street, still in his underwear and barefoot. Our heroine and her school friend are following behind him. And then if you look in the background behind them, there's the grandparents just walking nonchalantly. It almost reminded me of It Follows, because they were just very nonchalantly and slowly just following right behind their granddaughter, not saying a word, not changing facial expression. Like it was pretty damn creepy. Unfortunately, our guy, our prisoner, ends up getting hit by a truck. The grandparents end up catching up to the scene. The daughter, or the granddaughter, I should say, our heroine, she's trying to convince the driver, the one who actually hit the guy, that there's something wrong, that, you know, he needs to call the authorities, he needs to call an ambulance for this guy, blah, blah, blah. Suddenly, as this is all happening, townsfolk start showing up, like, you know, one or two people from the surrounding town, just, you know, they kind of, or the surrounding farms, I should say, they just kind of start showing up. And eventually the grandparents tell the driver, "Oh, no big deal." You know, they say something along the lines of he might have like some kind of mental health issue and that he's all messed up anyway. So they literally let the driver go. They're like, "Oh, don't worry about it." As the driver's driving away, our heroine, she's screaming at the guy, "Where are you going? We got to take this guy to the hospital, blah, blah, blah." And then at that exact same moment is when our heroine's parents and brother show up. She has a younger brother, I don't know, probably like 12, 13 years old. And then her parents, all in the same car. Literally, the parents and the grandparents just nonchalantly just kick this guy's body. The guy, the prisoner, who just got hit by the truck, they just literally kick him off the edge of a hill and he rolls down to the bottom of the hill. Then they go down to the bottom of the hill and they unceremoniously set him on fire. They literally just light him up like he's a pile of leaves, dead leaves. The girl is freaking out because she still doesn't understand what's going on, even though at this point she has already had multiple interactions with people in the town, including one interaction with a schoolmate of hers, a female friend of hers from school, who actually makes fun of her for not knowing what's happening in the town. Like the girl actually looks at our heroine and says, "Oh, you don't know what's going on?" And literally she just starts pointing and laughing. Her boyfriend pulls out his camera, starts videotaping. So obviously this is a town-wide thing that's going on, which of course we don't know what it is at this point. One nice thing I got to say about this movie is that they never give us the explanation on a silver platter. It's not like there's a moment of exposition where somebody talks about what exactly is happening, you know, who figured out that this works, blah 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 blah. It's up to the audience, you know, it's up to us as the audience to just kind of put the clues together and figure out what's happening. So here is my interpretation of what's happening. Basically, in this world, should I say in this town, people have the ability to steal luck, literally good luck. They're stealing luck from other human beings. And what they need to do is they need to kidnap a person, sew their eyes, mouth, and ears shut, and then just keep them prisoner in their house. Through some process that is not explained in the movie, these people who have this prisoner in their house are able to siphon happiness from the person. And my interpretation is that this happiness is like a drug. And that explains why the grandparents will sometimes go blank, but they'll have a big old grin on their face, a big old shit eating smile. But they'll be blank. That's a drug effect. I mean, have you ever seen someone shoot up smack or angel dust or something? That's the exact same fucking. They kind of go catatonic and they just kind of stare at the ceiling. So what I'm thinking is when these people get a shot of luck or happiness from their little prisoner body, if you will, it's like a drug. They literally feel like a euphoric effect. And then when somebody like shakes them out of it, they go right back to where they were before. Like they almost don't realize that they were euphoric for a few seconds there. So, like I said, that's my interpretation. I could be totally wrong because the movie doesn't specifically explain it. But this is a town-wide thing. This entire community seems to be doing this. And they all say it so nonchalantly to the point where after they burn the grandparents' old good luck doll, which I'm just going to call them good luck dolls for the rest of the movie, for lack of a better term. As soon as their good luck doll gets hit by the truck and then they light them on fire, they just nonchalantly are like, well, we got to get another one now. Like nothing, like they just ran out of milk and they need to go to the store and get another gallon of milk. I mean, so nonchalant. Well, we got to get another one. And the reason that they have to get another one is again, this is just my interpretation, but I think because they started doing this, like once a family starts doing this, they kind of lose. Oh, how can I put this? If they lose their lucky charm, they basically start to deteriorate. And that's what we see with our heroine's family. Like her little brother starts bleeding out of his eyes. He starts convulsing on the floor. It's actually a pretty gnarly scene. Like it's very off-putting. It comes out of nowhere. And then when the camera spins around to show the rest of the family at the dinner table, they're all bleeding from different orifices. The mom is bleeding from her eyes. Granddad is bleeding out the mouth. Like literally a lot of blood is coming out of his mouth. And then the dad is also bleeding. Actually, now that I think about it, all the women were bleeding out of the eyes and all the men were bleeding out of their mouths. So I don't know if that's a gender thing. Who knows? Anyway,
that part or that stuff happening kind of reminded me of Killing of a Sacred Deer.
a little bit, yeah.
Although that was more of a Greek tragedy uh, story, where this, to me, my interpretation was basically it's a microcosm for you could say capitalism specifically, but just kind of like the wider world because there is dialogue where the grandparents talk about. I don't actually can't remember if it was the grandparents or someone else that the daughter talks to. Basically, it's a bad world out there,
Yeah.
and basically in order your happiness is almost dependent on the unhappiness of others in a
Yes.
society where it's constant competition, where you could look at like the electronics in our hands. Well, how did we get that? Because somewhere off in some foreign country, there's probably horrible conditions that go into mining the materials to make the phone, but way over here it's kind of out of sight and out of mind that there's misery
Mm.
going on in order for our happiness to happen. So I think to me, that's the subtext I took, and that's especially because when they kind of tell when the daughter freaks out about it, and she initially doesn't want to cooperate. It's like, oh, what's wrong with you guys? The family kind of gets angry with her, like, well, you've had the advantages of this the whole
Yeah.
time, and by you not continuing and helping us now, because after she messed with their I guess, doll, as you put it. Now they're reaping the consequences and they're calling her selfish for it and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And, we'll get to the rest of the movie with your walkthrough, but that's the interpretation I kind of took from what's going on.
No, it's valid. Absolutely. Can't get happiness without somebody else's suffering. That's
Hmm.
100% valid, especially because they're keeping these good luck dolls alive. It's not like they're just killing them and putting them in their house as an ornament. They're keeping them
Yeah.
alive
And
specifically.
I do
So,
agree with the element that you said where it's almost like by keeping them in the house, because like they don't get into like a too overly detailed about how the process works. Like we don't get like a huge ritual other than like the sewing of the eyes and the ears, but it's there's obviously some type of process where you're almost taking the essence of someone's potential happiness. And in a way it's like they're not literally, because like where we said during the general thoughts were like this isn't, it's not like I wouldn't call it like an Asian extreme series movie where they're literally out there like torching them, like cutting them up and doing all that. It's more you're just kind of like putting this person in solitude, taking away any happiness they could potentially have in life. And by that osmosis or whatever, sucking the happiness out of them somehow, like brings you guys happiness or the family itself. So yeah, I did totally agree. Like somehow it's like explain that it's like the essence of their happiness now like comes to the
yep,
family.
exactly. And then I forgot to mention that the the childhood friend of our heroine, the male, the one that I think she has feelings for, he apparently, him and his father are like the only family in this town who refuse to do this ritual, because everybody talks down about this family to the point where our heroine's grandfather even tells her don't see him again after he catches her hanging out with them, when she first reconnects with them after coming back to the town. He flat out says don't hang out with them, but doesn't give an answer. So at first, I thought it was going to be, the complete opposite, that it was that family that was doing evil things and the rest of the town was trying to avoid them. Nope. Complete opposite. It's an evil town who's putting down the one good family in the whole community. So, yeah, that was interesting. That was an interesting little dichotomy there. Just to see that one family that kind of refused to go along with what everybody else in this town was doing, and they basically become maybe not martyrs, but pariahs. Maybe it might be a better word. I'm not sure, but yeah, I did like that aspect of it. I thought that was pretty cool. So, at this point, after the family is starting to deteriorate, they basically tell our heroine, who, by the way, is not deteriorating. Like at one point, we see a tiny little bit of blood in her eye, but there might be a better explanation for that, which I'll get to here in a sec. So basically, the family tells her, well, you lost our good luck charm, so now you have to get us a new one. And obviously, she doesn't want to. At this point, she's still vehemently against what her family and everybody in the town is doing. Eventually, she goes to see her friend, the school chum, the male, the one that we think she has feelings for. And unfortunately, as it turns out, his father passed away. His father, who's already deteriorating in health, like I said, because of their refusal to use the good luck charms that the rest of the town is using. So after his father passes and our heroine comes to visit him, he basically loses all hope and basically decides, I don't really want to be on this planet anymore. So he literally takes our heroine's hands and puts them around his own neck, but then with his own hands on top of her hands, he's basically strangling himself to death, just with the guise of her doing it. Like he's basically emulating. She's fighting it the whole time. She doesn't want to choke him. She's just like, no, 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 I don't want to do this. But he's obviously much bigger and stronger than her. He's holding her hands against his neck with his hands, which simultaneously are putting pressure on his neck. Now, obviously, folks, we're not going to use movie logic as far as a suffocation here, because you don't just die the instant that you pass out, when you're being strangled. Ask any MMA fighter who's ever been put to sleep in a rear naked choke. You're not dying. You're just going to sleep, or you're passing out, I should say. So what ends up happening is our guy basically passes out. I think that they were trying to imply in the movie that he had died, but obviously, if you know anything about human physiology, you know he's not dead. And as it turns out, he's not dead. But at this point, our girl, who has now lost everything, the only guy in this town that she had any feelings for, he is now, basically suicidal, out cold. So she ends up making the only decision that she thinks she has, and she takes his body and brings it back to the house. Now, while all this is happening with the whole choking of the boyfriend, there's something so fucking weird going on back at the family's house that I don't know what the hell this is going on. Grandma gives birth to a baby. Grandma, I said, not mom, grandma, who's easily in her 60s or 70s, literally in one scene just shows up fully pregnant. She looks like she's 9 months pregnant. Do any of my co-hosts have any explanation for that? Because I have no fucking clue what any of that was. She's pregnant. We see her water break. We see the dad, our heroine's dad, kind of acting as the midwife. And then grandma gives birth to a baby. That was
probably the grossest scene in the movie.
Oh, God, yeah. It looked like grandma came on his face, man. That didn't look like afterbirth to me, man. I've seen afterbirth. It doesn't look like that.
Yeah, but the only rhyme or reason I could make to it is, like, in a metaphorical sense, like the peak happiness of them was like expanding the family. Because, like, you know, you said the happiness was almost like would work like a drug for a certain amount of time because they're in like a euphoric state.
Right.
Because otherwise, I'm not sure. Like, and that's the one thing sometimes with like different Asian movies, depending on the country of origin, there is sometimes cultural aspects that don't always translate to like the American POV.
Oh, yeah.
So there could be that going on too, where it just doesn't make sense to us because we're not understanding the cultural stuff. But if I had to guess, you were kind of right with your euphoria interpretation, and maybe for them that's like the peak of the euphoric state is like a baby expanding the family. Otherwise, I'm not sure.
It's funny too, because that the scene where we see grandma pregnant is right after she gives grandpa's finger a blowjob, which, folks, we're not exaggerating. It sounds like we're making fun, but no, she literally takes grandpa's hand and starts filleting one of his fingers. Grandpa basically says, "Would you stop that?" Now, obviously, again, it's the euphoric aspect of the happiness, if you will. She's so happy that I guess she got horny for the first time in many years and just starts sucking off whatever part of grandpa she can get her hands on. Again, it's just an interpretation. I could be 100% wrong, but, on first watch, this is what I've come up with. So, like I said, if you disagree with me, by all means, hit me up. Let me know how you interpret it. But yeah, I'd be very interested because I think this movie could be interpreted multiple ways. And it's always interesting to see different viewers kind of interpret it in different ways and seeing what you agree with about it, what you don't agree with, blah, blah, blah. So yeah. So anyway, back to our movie. Like I said, at this point, grandma has just given birth to a mystery baby, and our heroine has brought her, boyfriend, her boy toy, if you will, to the house. He is unconscious, but then we see the family start the ritual. We see the older members of the family just kind of in a half circle chanting, while our heroine is then doing the procedure of sewing his eyes and mouth shut. And yeah, I think that's about the end of it. The movie the movie ends with another scene of our heroine basically getting another person. I don't know if she's getting one for herself to take to Tokyo, or if this is for another family in the community that maybe she's so proficient at doing this that she's doing it for other families. Again, your interpretation is as good as mine. But yeah, we basically see her getting another guy, bringing him home. And then right before the movie fades to black, we see her look up to the sky and give that familiar ear-to-ear grin that we've seen multiple times throughout the movie. Which, like I said, I think that kind of explains why she made the decision that she made. Because, like I said, I feel like the happiness is a drug. And once you get a taste of it, you kind of want it again. You know, and I mean, same thing in real life. I mean, whenever we're happy, we always want to be happy. And, you know, we always want that feeling. You know, we want that Christmas feeling all year, to quote Bill Murray and Scrooged. But yeah, I think once you get a taste of that happiness, you realize that shit, this actually works. And, you know, unfortunately, yeah, someone basically has to lose their life, you know, because they basically become a captive for the rest of their life. But like I said, the story is very ambiguous. They don't tell us, you know, where this ritual came from, who discovered it, and how long is the good luck charm good for? Like, I mean, if they were to do that to a child, could they literally keep that same good luck charm for like 80 years? Like, is that a possibility? I don't know. They don't tell us that in the movie. Every time we see somebody's good luck bag, it's always an older gentleman. It's never a woman or a child. Even though at one point our heroine does have a daydream or a hallucination where she does take out a kid. She stabs a kid in the belly with the intention of bringing him home. And I was thinking to myself, oh, that's a smart move, because if that guy's young and they can keep him as a good luck charm for longer because he's younger, then hey, good choice on her part. But nope, it turned out to just be a hallucination. She didn't actually stab the kid. But then, like I said, she ends up going and getting her little friend from school. And that's pretty much it. Like I said, movie ends with just a shot of our heroine smiling and looking up to the sky. You know, that look of acceptance. She's accepted what her family is, and she's accepted what she is. So there you go, folks. That is best wishes to all, or best regards to all, depending on which one you watched. 2024.
Yeah, they kind of went with the Stepford Wivesian ending where
Kinda, yeah.
yeah.
I'll go with that. Which, you know, also kind of borders horror. Like, this one had some great images. I mean, you know, seeing the kid's eyes bleed as he's writhing on the ground, I thought was pretty cool. You know, seeing grandpa basically puking up blood, you know, so there is some viscera in this movie. Just, I don't know. I wish it would have been a little bit more over the top. I wish that our heroine would have been a little bit more reluctant to do what she did, and maybe we could see how bad that damage gets. Like what would the family look like if they didn't get a new good luck bag? Are they literally just gonna deteriorate into a pile of blood and flesh, or, you know, would something even more gnarly happen? So, you know, who knows? Maybe for the sequel.
Ooh. All right. Well, that's gonna wrap up our discussion on the movie, but let's find out what else we have for people to listen to. Venom.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, before I do that, I did want to make a point about, I brought up Deep, Lovely, and Dark, or Dark, Lovely, and Deep earlier. And it's the same thing. If you guys remember that movie, it was a forest ranger who was investigating missing hikers. When she found out what was actually happening, she made the decision at the end of the movie to not stop it, to basically just allow it to keep happening. That bothered me a lot more than this ending, because, like I said, with this ending, with the happiness, the quote unquote happiness being almost like a drug, it makes a little bit more sense that our heroine in this movie made the decision that she made. Because even though, yeah, she spent an hour and 20 minutes trying to fight all of this that was happening, she did eventually just relent and allow it to happen. But like I said, because of the drug aspect of this, the whole euphoria thing, I'm a little bit more forgiving, as opposed to Dark Love or Deep, Lovely, and Dark, whatever the hell the name of that movie was. Because like I said, that woman spent the entirety of the movie searching for these missing hikers, and then when she figures out what's happening, she basically just turns the other cheek and allows it to happen for the benefit of Lord knows what. It's been at least 3 years since that movie came out, so I don't remember every aspect of it. So that's why this movie reminded me of that one. But like I said, I'm a little bit more forgiving of this one because of the drug aspect of it, the euphoria aspect of the happiness that they're experiencing. So that's all I wanted to point out. I just wanted to make sure people knew why I brought up that movie earlier, because I feel the same way about both these movies. They're both solid movies, well made, well acted, well edited. Just the third act's just kind of left me sour. That's all. So yeah, still a recommend. Still think you should check it out if you have a Shudder account. Anyway, back to what Mike was asking me. let's see, we have the Crystal Lake Gift Shop, episode 39 is in the can. I am in the process of editing that now. That episode should be out by the end of the week. On that one, we take a look at my pick, which was 1980s Humanoids from the Deep. Yes, we get fishy with some fishy sexual assault on the latest episode of Creature Comfort. So, yeah, that's episode 39. Like I said, that'll be available hopefully by the end of this week, at the absolute latest, early next week. Crystal Lake Gift Shop episode 10 is in the planning stages. We have our date to get together and record. So I'd say that episode 10, that one will be out hopefully before the end of June as well. I'm still not sure when my guest spot on the Joe Blow Horror Show is going to be out, but like I said, once I see that it's available, I'll let everybody know where you can get that. And that's about it from me.
All right. How about you, Don?
Yeah, as mentioned, the latest Creature Comforts should be out sooner rather than later. Still waiting on the Paranormal is the New Normal shows that I did. Both of those are recorded. The first one is a group of B-movie werewolf films, and the second one is 80s creature features. Both of those were done live, so I don't know the transfer date from live recordings to podcast recordings, but they should be out whenever. Again, I'll keep an eye out. But yeah, other than that, not much else.
Cool. For me, nothing yet, but I will be appearing on the next episode of the Sin Bin podcast next Thursday, I believe it is, which, as mentioned last time I was on it, it's like the spin-off of the 22 Shots of Moods and Horror Show, where they discuss the monthly new releases from Vinegar Syndrome. So look for that. They get it out pretty quick. Usually they record on, sometimes it takes Vinegar Syndrome like a while to get your stuff out because of how crazy it is like for collectors. So they record it the last Thursday of every month as long as everyone can do it, and they usually have it out by like the following Monday or Tuesday. So that'll probably be up in a couple weeks. And then other than that, nothing. We got hopefully as of now the main show next episode recording this coming up weekend, and then Crystal Lake Gift Shop could be recording as soon as this week, just depending if we're all available on the same day. And other than that, that's it. Next episode of Fresh Cuts, 28 years later. I don't see any reason why it would not be that one. So plan for that. That's I'll marking off on another one of the big ones as far as like anticipation. So,
Well, anticipation for you, maybe.
oh yeah,
I'm not the biggest fan. I like the movies. Don't get me wrong. I like days and weeks later. I actually prefer weeks to days, but I don't know. Like they're like 8 out of 10s to me. Like I know a lot of people think that they're near perfect and that Danny Boyle's a genius, blah blah blah. They're good movies. I enjoy watching them, but yeah, they're not perfect to me. So we'll see. Hopefully, the new one might maybe change that opinion. Because I mean, it's not like they've made a bad movie, not by any stretch. This is for a horror trilogy, they've put out already 2 solid ones. Hopefully, the third one is just as solid, if not more. It just doesn't necessarily speak to me as a zombie/horde movie. So yeah, that's it. That's it. But I still like it, so I'm still looking forward to it.
Did you watch Dead Talent Society yet?
No.
Okay. I was just wondering because like when you were talking about all the movies you watched, I was like, I know I talked about it, but I wasn't
You
sure.
also got to realize that I watch a lot of independent crap. Like I like a lot of the stuff that like Nudie has, like all those indie like hour and 15-minute long movies. A lot of what I watch is those. I mean, obviously, from working with me and Don that Don and I both like indie horror. that low budget horror, sometimes even shot on video. I mean, so I would probably say about 40% of what I've watched this year is of that ilk. It's like it's all the Popeye movies, the Mouse, the Steamboat Willie movies, shit like that. So I like I said, I don't know that any of it would be a top 10 candidate. That's why I would say Don would probably be able to turn you on to more stuff that you haven't seen yet than I would. But
Well,
I'll still look.
unless his list is just twice as much of that stuff as yours, then
Well, I mean, he's
Well, I
probably
mean, I gave mine already, so
yeah, he's probably got a lot more Asian stuff too as well. So since Don is our Asian horror guy.
All right. Yeah. Well, when you get a chance, watch Dead Talent Society. I liked it.
All
Thought it
right,
was
I'll give
pretty
it a
good.
shot.
Okay. Well, yeah, that's gonna do it for this episode. Thanks everyone for listening. We will catch you in a week with the next one. Let's say bye.
later.
If you have Hulu, go watch that Predator movie. Now, do it. Go.
It will bring you great happiness.
Yes.